one and I stand on that. You and me, babe, that's black on black. Black on black. Black on black.
Being a part of the TGIF brand sometimes makes you feel like you don't completely belong in the pantheon of blackness. You know, blackness has been treated as a very monolithic experience in entertainment. You know, if it's not a hood story, it's not a black story. And you know, sometimes I feel left out of that. You know, so it's like you know, like if there's ever a poll and they say, oh, what are your favorite black shows? And you know, Martin is in there, or Living Single, or any of those kind of, I already know we coming in last. But if there's ever a poll and it's just like your favorite family shows and suddenly Martin's not in there or whatever, all of a sudden we rank really high. And so it's kind of interesting in how we look at ourselves, to be quite honest, even as black folks. And somehow I became a symbol for black male nerd culture, to be quite honest. I mean, I know this for a fact. Any brother that grew up in the 80s and 90s, well, 90s and 2000s, wearing glasses, he was told at school he looked like me. He was called Urkel. And he didn't look anything like me, guaranteed. But still, his peers would find a way to call him Urkel, and even girls to that extent. So it's really humbling to see how far nerd culture has come, and really it's not nerd culture, it's smart culture, it's hobbyist culture, it's skateboarders, it's and I could never have known in a million years that I would be the face of that. I never could have known that.
Okay, that last part, fine. Yeah, I mean that's true. People were called Urkel. Urkel, it was the avatar. He was the avatar for nerds. And I guess maybe because I know he's battled that because he got buff, it's like, I'm going to break through. And because you get typecast and it's hard to break from a character that was so iconic, which it was, much like JJ. And I do think there was some buffoonery, much like JJ, because that's a comfortable, non-threatening, even Stefan, non-threatening character. Because, black men have been demonized in this country, around their sexual prowess. So anything that can remove that threat from the sanctity of, think about Birth of a Nation and the Klan and all this, Emmett Till, like there's a pathology there that we don't talk about. So to then project onto the zeitgeist a non-threatening black male character, which he was, is to John Amos's point, you're actually doing the opposite. So what he's saying, that is the monolith, sir. Yeah. That is the monolith, the non-threatening black boy that
it's the reason why audiences love Webster. He never actually grew up. He never got big. It's the reason why they love Gary Coleman and Arnold Drummond, is because he was tiny. He never got big, right? There's a reason why Stephen Urkel was, and JJ Walker, were like there because they're scrawny and they are non-threatening. Like people were, as an adult male, people were picking JJ up and moving him around, right? And like Sweet Daddy had his boys picking JJ up and handing him off to another person, right? Like stuff like that. And you don't recognize it in that moment, but like you don't see any sort of black male prowess, for quite a while. And on television, what I think Jaleel White is out of his rabbit ass mind is the fact that you don't, what Martin, one thing you can say about Martin is that you saw a full cross section of black culture and people in black world, right? They were in Detroit. Martin had a good job. Martin was on the radio every day, went to work every single day, helped take care of his mama. He had a girlfriend who worked in the corporate world. Her best girlfriend worked in the corporate world. Say what you want to about Shanae. She lived right across the hall from a dude who had a radio show on every day in Detroit, supposedly the best one in the city. And she owned her own salon. She might have had wild hair and big earrings, but she owned her salon and hired her friends to work at the salon, right? You can't tell me that's not, come on. That's ghetto, really? Maybe Jaleel White needs to check himself on what he feels ghetto is, right? Because living single, how you gonna have an entrepreneur? You got an entrepreneur, actress or aspiring actress who still got another job on the side, a stylist who still works in the salon, and you got an investment banker, a lawyer, and a self-employed handyman, all who never was out of work the whole time, who all were a part of culture, who all traveled and went out to dinner and listened to jazz, but listened to hip hop. Word? What's ghetto about that? Really? What's the hood story in that? Help me, because I think that Jaleel White he probably got some stuff he needs to reconcile with how the public has viewed him, because it was a lot of kid dynamiting, right? Like they had to keep him in a certain way. They had to dress him up in crazy outfits and clown outfits and have him do clown stuff and have him do clown voices and have him say clown taglines and all that kind of stuff. But you talk about Family Matters. Yeah, it was a family show, but even in those other shows, like the deep dive that they did on serious issues on Mason, A Different World was the first time that I ever saw Black people having a real public conversation about HIV. The Whoopi
I was just
Goldberg
gonna mention
episode,
that. Yes.
and Tisha Campbell, where Whoopi Goldberg is talking to that class, but she is talking to America when she says that AIDS is not a moral judgment. It was the first time we ever saw on TV where AIDS and HIV was not about gay people, and particularly about gay men. Tisha Campbell was cute and pretty and a college student, and she was living with HIV. Right. And there was no mention of, oh, well, she must have got it from this or she got it from that. She got it from, she was a Black woman who got HIV from heterosexual sex from somebody she loved. And nobody was talking about that on TV. Nobody was telling Black women, keep your head on a swivel, stay woke. Right. It was all about what was happening to the dirty gays. That Whoopi Goldberg saying that AIDS is not a moral judgment probably changed the way plenty of people dealt with people in their family. Right. A Different World, they had the apartheid episode, right? They were talking about real stuff. The Ben Vereen episode where he comes back and he's gassing and goosing Will Smith up. That wasn't about ghetto. That was about a family that said, no matter what comes into this house, you got a home here. We will take care of you. Nobody can take this home away from you. Nobody can take this love away from you. If that man won't love you and raise you, I will. Right? Like that was ghetto where? Lena Horne was on the Cosby Show. I'm sorry, Family Matters.
Yes. Yeah. And the people that work with him on Family Matters didn't like him. Oh, I'll just say that.
Judith Jackson danced in the Huxtables.
Oh my
living
goodness.
room.
Oh my God. We're not even talking about the art that was the Coogee sweaters, the all of the culture, the rich culture from a doctor and a lawyer on the Cosby Show that gave birth to A Different World, that gave birth to, and I don't even want to talk about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I feel like when we have these conversations in mixed company, and you can throw out a word like Pantheon and think that you're saying something smart, but haven't really done the self-work, goes back to that again, to even have the right to have this conversation.
Right.
You got some stuff to work through, but what you're not going to do is throw us in this pot of ghetto because you don't feel like your contribution to Black television is valued enough. And now we have space. We have space to be able to examine this and have a real conversation. You're not going to do that. I agree.
You're not going to bastardize all these things that we grew up with, and definitely not in my generation, because I can say that I'm presenting to my company and people from my parent company in the next quarter. And one of the things that I'm opening with is there's a scene where Kyle is up for promotion. He's done everything that they've asked him to do. His numbers have been incredible. And the brother pulls him to the side and he was like, hey, here's what they're saying is that your hair ain't professional. And, Kyle had twists, right? And part of what we're talking about is our work around Crown Act. I'm playing that clip in front of a whole mixed group of people at two of the largest corporations in the world. because it speaks to culture, so that you understand that this is important, but it ain't new. And it
What clip?
actually impacts people's lives, because sometimes people can't get it in this way. So you got to give it to them in this way over here, right?
What clip can you play from Family Matters that has that? I mean, even somebody in shout out to Craig in the Nubia chat. Shout out to Nubians. Bernie Mac, the Bernie Mac show. I mean, the fact that he had to take in his sister's children, you know, like that. Yeah. There were deep storylines that were on a show that America ain't ready for him. But yes, he was dealing with that too, like, you know, taking up, you know, being the father figure to these kids and all the little things that they had to go through with their mom that was struggling with drug abuse. So like, miss us with that. I'm sorry that you had to carry that Urkel thing, and you know, people judged you. I'm sorry, but you're not going to slap all black people as a result. You're going to have to work that out with your therapist, sir.
Right.